Hey everybody, what's going on? So we are starting this reading with you being at the front of the line. This can also mean that you are maybe emerging at a point. I'm seeing what looks like a triangle and you being at the top of it or at the front of it. I'm looking at strength and I'm also looking at the emperor. When we think about the energy of the emperor, it is like the pack leader, it is the pioneer. But instead of it being like this having to do with you and everybody else, it's more so like you within your life and how you are leading yourself through your life and carrying things out. And of course, this can have its place among other people as well. But when we bring the focus onto you with yourself here, it feels like that's where this comes center stage. Having strength next to the emperor can mean that for some reason it's difficult for you to step up in this way, or there can be just challenging stuff that you need to do. It's like when you think about somebody that's the leader of a community, but it's you with you, and needing to make those tough decisions that are actually in the best interest of everybody. And again, you having to do that with you here. So rather than feeling like I need this person to tell me what to do here, or I'm looking to this other person as an authority figure, it's about you stepping into that position within your own life, and it can be making the tough calls that need to be made. The Emperor is about the vision that we have for our lives, and it's about being unapologetically ourselves and us being the ones to make the choices that need to be made and carry things out that need to be carried out when we are really honoring ourselves and we're really honoring our vision and what we want to be experiencing and what we believe to be possible for ourselves. And when we have strength next to it, it's about us really following our hearts. So Emperor is connected with Aries and strength is connected with Leo, and that Aries energy is going to be the thing that carries out what needs to be done. And the energy of Leo is the divine wisdom that we have that's connected with how we feel and ultimately whether or not we're really honoring that, whether or not we're really expressing that. And the energy of Aries is who we are, who we believe ourselves to be within this lifetime, and what our mission is. Maybe some of you, this actually does have to do a lot with your relationships. I'm looking at Justice coming out next. If you are not showing up totally authentically within your relationships, this can be a time when you reclaim that energy. But it can even be with like you with yourself here, and whether or not you're really honoring your truth as far as what it is that you want to be living out and what you feel like is right for you. Like, is there anywhere where you feel like you can't show up as your full self, as your whole self? Is there anywhere where it's like you can bring parts of yourself but like you can't bring the whole package? And is that something that needs to be reclaimed? Do you need to step back into your energy in a way that you maybe abandoned? Feels like setting things right again. Maybe you're not totally sure how to do that though. If there's some stuff going on right now that you don't feel totally clear on, and you can have different feelings about it, but you're not 100% sure like what it means and what you're meant to do with it, it feels like right now is a time where your willingness to figure it out is important and it can come into play now. So if there's anything that you've been tossing around where you're still like, I don't know totally how I feel about this, or I have different feelings about this, or I'm having this experience and I don't totally understand it, there's something like this about rather than dismissing something because it's confusing, or rather than dismissing something because it's complicated, it feels like it's about actually diving into it and uncovering it, because what you're going to find is more about yourself. And I feel even like this can be parts of yourself that you've covered up. And when I say that, this can be connected with like your life direction and whatnot, and it can be about your relationships, it can be your job path, it can be your soul path, but this feels like parts of yourself that are like, hey, you forgot about me, or you covered me up. And then you lose your sense of direction. Maybe you're even at a point right now where you're like, what is the right direction for me to be going in certain areas of my life? I don't really know. You diving into this and exploring, rather than being intimidated because something is complicated or puzzling, it feels like jumping into it. And what you're going to find is parts of you that are actually very clear and well defined that I think have been covered up by other things. You know, like whether this is for survival or whatever else it has been, it feels like there are certain pieces of yourself that have gotten lost along the way, and this is a reclamation of that part, those parts of yourself. And when you bring all of that together, rather than it feeling like a bunch of different voices, it actually just paints one solid picture for you. So this isn't like there are too many voices in my head, and if I really indulge within this, I'm going to come out more confused. It feels actually like these are just fragments of a bigger whole that's being put together, and it does paint a whole cohesive picture in a way that you can feel kind of out of touch with right now. So it's going to be coming back to that. But what this also means too is that it means big changes. And that can be something that when you are back in a place of connection with yourself, you're ready to do those things. Like I said before, this energy of the leader of the pack, the energy of the pioneer, and you stepping into that role within your life and how you're carrying things out. That person, that archetype, knows that tough decisions and calls need to be made because they're the best for everybody. It's in everybody's best interest, even if it's difficult to do. And that person feels that sense of responsibility to do those things. So there may be some things that haven't been being done, that this is going to empower the part of you that understands that this is just what has to be done at this point. But it can be something that feels really, really difficult to do, because it means that you are going to have to, there can be loss that's involved in this, ultimately a need for acceptance. And what this means too is that it's going to take you out of some time that I don't know if you've been feeling lost or you've been feeling confused, or it's just like things haven't been totally clear. This is going to allow for that period to come to an end as well, because it feels like a lot of cluttered stuff, things that are being kept around, things that should have been thrown out, things that should have been given away, things that should have been surrendered ultimately, that have been being kept around, that are just crowding the path, and then feeling like you're not really getting anywhere, because every time you take a step, you're just like stepping on things that aren't really supposed to be there. And those things are the things that make it confusing when you take a step. You're like, am I actually going in the right direction? Why am I tripping over all of this stuff then, if this is really the right way for me? And that's why this stuff needs to be surrendered. Just clearing the way. But that can also mean that like certain bridges are going to be burned as well. Wow. I pulled 6 cards total, and 5 out of the 6 are major arcanas, which is a really big deal. Major arcanas are seen as being connected with really big life events that are taking place on an energetic level, can be physically as well. So I'm looking at Leo, Aries, Libra, Scorpio, and we also have Pisces here. On the bottom of the deck is the King of Wands, which is that part of you that's going to be willing to take this on and to carry out what needs to be carried out. But what this means is that you are going to be exploring different avenues that I think you have, it's stuff within you that it's there for a reason and it's meant to be explored, but I do get this sense of like not exploring certain things just because it's complicated, and then it feels like I feel something that's been going on where maybe certain choices haven't been made so you can actually technically keep your options open, but then it can be crowding things and then you can start feeling out of touch with yourself because nothing is really moving forward. It's like unopened doors, or unopened doors that you could be going through. And ultimately, I'm seeing you walking into the forest. I'm seeing you going somewhere that you haven't gone before. Only to find that that's exactly where you're supposed to be going. But I do kind of get this as being a little bit of an unsure time for you. But I also feel like this is a time when if you've been stammering within the energy and you haven't been moving forward, this can be a time when you become very decisive. Or it can be a time when people around you or a person around you becomes very decisive, which kind of forces you into a particular lane. There are certain things that need to be cut out. Having strength and having death is not only a willingness to do it, but it's connecting with yourself on a psychological level, preparing yourself for this, saying like, I am capable of doing this. If this is the right way for me, I have what I need in order to do this. Because I think ultimately there can be a lot of resistance to doing things that need to be done, but the only reason why we find ourselves in that place is because we don't believe that we can do it. Like, I'm not going to be able to make it through that if I really honor this. And it's your ultimate truth. That's all it is. But there can be this feeling of like, I don't know if I'm strong enough. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through it. I don't know if I can really undergo this. All for the sake of bringing the truth forward. And that's also what's connected with justice ultimately. High vibrational justice energy, high vibrational Libran energy is a willingness to bring forth the truth regardless of the consequences, because that is the imperative. And so whatever that means for you in order to bring that forward. Having strength in death will be all of the cobwebs that need to be taken out that aren't allowing that to happen. Like what's blocking the truth from coming forward? What is not allowing for equilibrium to be there? What is being avoided? Looking at strength, starting with strength and ending with the moon. Are there parts of yourself that you're avoiding because you don't know what you're going to find when you go into the dark? Kind of like a feeling of being scared of the unknown, which is where ultimately you're just going to find more of yourself. It's just like unexplored pieces of yourself, unexplored territory of yourself. But it can be this part of you that's like, I don't know if I can do it. So I think that there's stuff going on where you're going to empowering your solar plexus can really help. That feels like the core energy of this to me more than anything. Some of you've been in a situation that's felt really like, I get something feeling like indecisive, or it's up in the air, or it's unclear, something like that, where there's like really a lack of definition and a lack of understanding. That I think within yourself there's a desire to make things clear. However, I'm seeing reasons why it hasn't been done is because of having to face certain things that you could have felt maybe you weren't prepared for, or maybe you weren't ready for. But that in compromising that and living in that way, it does feel like losing yourself along the way. And being in a place too where you can feel like your self-exploration stopped. The the story of your path and exploring your path has stopped. And I think too, when you get to that spot, it's like, what are you living for also? It just kind of feels like the same thing day in and day out, but not in a way where it's like there's peace about it and there's happiness about it. This is something else. Having King of Wands on the bottom of the deck being the underlying theme for it, it means that embracing that energy of the archetype of the King of Wands, preparing yourself, being ready to take this on, initiating, taking action, trusting your judgment, carrying things out that need to be carried out, and you putting yourself in the driver's seat, all of those things are going to help. That is the energy that needs to be embodied in order for this to move forward. I guess something about your heart and your soul wanting there to be a match when it comes to the things that you're involved with. So maybe that's also something that's going on too. And this can be something that feels like when you engage in it, it feels inspiring to you. When you connect with that and express it, you feel also like it gives back to you. Whether this be a project or a relationship, whatever it is, something that you'd be engaging within. I'm seeing something where it's like you want it to match you on a heart level. You want there to be that flow and that dynamic there. This can also mean that bravery is needed in order for you to connect with the reciprocity that you are truly seeking too. And there's something here also about needing to be willing to give your energy as well, to get involved. Interesting. Having Emperor go back in with Five of Pentacles, maybe you feel like chronically you haven't been supported. That can be something that's felt. But I think overall this can be feeling a disconnect from that part of yourself. Like if you had somebody swoop in something, it doesn't even have to be a person, which would tell you what to do and where to go, I feel like immediately that would be obeyed. But it's because of feeling disconnected from that part of yourself, because you can be that for yourself. But I think like ultimately having Five of Pentacles be connected with the Emperor, there can be a lot of self-doubt when it comes to you pioneering through your life. When it comes to you guiding yourself through your life, there can be a lack of self-trust. There can be a lack of connection with your inner instinct as well. That can be something too. And a lack of faith ultimately in yourself. Because Aries is that energy of self, and I do what I want, and this is what I like, and this is what I don't like, and that's where I want to go. And nothing's going to stop me from doing that. And this is my life, and I want to live on my terms. And having that Five of Pentacles feels like a disconnect from that part of yourself and like an unwillingness to initiate the changes needed in order for you to reclaim that, which now you can be coming around to wanting to do that. Because you can feel like your fire has been kind of going out a bit. Like things have become somewhat sedentary. Oh, so Justice is going in with Nine of Swords. You know, seeing this, it really feels like you actually know inherently what to do here, but you can just be scared to do it. Like this feels like you're not really confused. You're not really trying to figure out. You know how to bring forward what needs to be brought forward. Again, this thing of bringing the truth forward regardless of the consequences, and that being the high vibrational energy of justice. And for you within your life to do that. having that go in with Nine of Swords, it can be, I actually am in touch with the part of myself that knows exactly what I need to be doing here, but I am so terrified of what's going to happen if I actually do that. And that's what's keeping me in this space of inaction. And I like to see this Nine of Swords as well as being connected with what is meant to decay and come apart, because it's time for that to like go back in the ground, so there can be a rebirth that's going to be happening, so the new energy can be reborn. Because this feels like so scared of death, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off, only to have this like raggedy thing that really lacks vitality just because you don't want it to end, even though clearly it's time for this thing to disintegrate. And also the awareness of how polarity works, and that if something is coming to an end, if something is dying off, it means that something else is going to be reborn. But this can be just that denial and not allowing of the transition that needs to take place. Because I don't even feel like there's so much a concern of what's going to be on the other side. I think there's an awareness that you'd actually be good with what's going to be on the other side of it. I think that this is just a fear of the transition. Because the other side is going to be everything in its right place in a way that is kind of the opposite of what's taking place now. So of course we want that. Of course we want the outcome of that. It just feels like the actual steps need to be taken, but there can be a lot of anxiety about the transition, and like, if I do that, then what are these things going to look like, even though that's like out of your control. But you can be avoiding it just because it's going to reinforce this feeling, the truth of you really not having control. That's ultimately, I feel like, why death is here, is to saying that that surrendering is actually extremely important. It's like trying to stop the inevitable from happening and then getting like all clogged up within the energy because of that. It feels kind of confusing, like what's even been being worked on lately. Like maybe you're showing up and I'm seeing you showing up and I'm seeing you investing energy, and you're like, where is this even going? What am I even doing? It's like taking a bunch of classes and like still not graduating because it's not really adding up, because the energy is too scattered. I'm seeing this sentiment here of when you get forced to have to go through some sort of transition, even if this is like going from first grade to second grade, you know, like we all have these different transitions that we go through. There can be so much anxiety about going through that actual transition. And so we can start playing like really defensively, where there's a lot of avoidance of things. And there's a lot of like anxiety that this produces, because we know that there's like a bigger force that we're trying to push off from happening, delay from happening. But as soon as you get sort of like caught in the undertow of it, and it's kind of like a free flow, like I'm just gonna have to see where things take me because I lost my grip there and now I'm being pulled by the flow of things. There is this feeling of liberation that comes with this, where that like tightening up and that clenching and that holding on is released, and it's the rebound effect of things. And in that moment of being connected with the flow and the stream of life and where the energy is going, there is this feeling of being held within that space, that it doesn't feel like there's that connection with that because of the resistance to being connected with that. And what ultimately ends up happening is that you get dropped into the river of flow, And that is where you end up feeling your most powerful. It's really ironic because this feels like in delaying these things and putting this off, I'm trying to like vie for power here, but I don't feel empowered. And then when the surrendering happens, that's when this feeling of empowerment comes, because you're not fighting the nature of this. And that's when you remember that part of yourself in a way that I feel like there's ultimately been such a disconnect. And this is what's been avoided. And this is also what you find too. The breakthrough that you've been looking for. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting and tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.